Chat, how we doing on this Friday afternoon or night, depending on where you're at? How we doing tonight? A lot of news that's come out in the last, couple hours, I would say. Some transfer sagas. And plus, we got James Rodríguez news. I really haven't touched on this much since it was announced a couple days ago, weeks ago. People had been trying to link him with an MLS team. I really hadn't touched that yet. But we're going to talk about it tonight because there was a team he was rumored to go to. But now it seems like that is going to be off, especially with another move that has been reported about today. So, hope you guys are having a great day or night, depending where you're at. If you don't mind, will you smash the like button down below? It helps us out. Let's try to get to our 100 likes that we hit on every single transfer stream. We've done several of these this off season, and I hope you guys enjoy them. I see a lot of familiar faces that have been at all of them. So please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. 340 subscribers away from 12,000. We keep on growing like crazy, and it's thanks to you guys and all your support. Mr. I appreciate you for stopping by, my friend. All right, so let's talk about James Rodríguez, okay? This has been a rumor that's kind of been in that I've ignored for a couple weeks now, just because I didn't really know how much merit there was to it or if there was any legitimacy to James Rodríguez, but it just won't go away. And also, James Rodríguez had been linked to Major League Soccer, oh man, at least like 2 or 3 other times. And some of the teams he's been linked with has just been completely random. I don't think there's any chance in hell he would go to certain teams. And he's kind of been a journeyman since he left Madrid a couple years ago. I'll pull up his resume real quick because I just want to talk about this. He was a guy who had a great World Cup in 2014. Madrid bought him from Monaco, and it looked like he was going to have a pretty good career. And I don't think it really ever materialized to what it was supposed to be. But James Rodríguez, he played for Madrid, obviously, went on loan to Bayern for a couple years. Then he went to Everton. Then he went to Al Rayyan. Then he went to Olympiacos. Then he went to Sao Paulo, then Rayo Vallecano. And then he went to Club Leon in Liga MX. So since he left Madrid, not counting his loan stint, he has played at 6 different clubs in the last 6 years. So he's essentially playing for a new team every single season. Looks like he had a decent year at Lyon. I can't say that I paid too much attention to him. It just kind of felt like he fell off pretty drastically after he left there. I remember very vividly that after his stint with Everton, he was trying to get a move to MLS. I think he was trying to get a move to Inter Miami, if I'm not mistaken, because this was around the second season in their existence. I think he wanted to move there. And everybody talked about how big of a disaster it would have been if he went to Inter Miami because of his habits and the way he carries himself. It would not have been a good fit, and he probably would have not been locked in and focused on the club. So, never happened, right? But he is 34 years old. He'll be 35 this summer. He's still playing for the Colombian national team. I would assume he's going to be on the World Cup roster in 2020 and 2026. Now, here's the interesting part. This is where you kind of dive through who's linked with him, who could sign him, all that stuff. Cringe, appreciate you for stopping by, my friend. Um, I think that there was like Columbus was linked with him, which really doesn't make any sense. I don't think he's going to go to Columbus. Another team that was linked to him is obviously the one we shared earlier, which is Austin FC, which we'll talk about in a second on why uh, not they're not interested in him or they're not going to sign him now unless he takes a discount. And then the other team that I think he could sign. Well, actually, let me save that. I'll tell you the team I think he should sign for because it makes a lot of sense. And they have a DP spot open now. But let's talk about Austin FC real quick. So this was reported earlier, and they've been linked pretty heavy with him this entire offseason. The Colombian attacking midfielder reportedly has advanced negotiations to become a new player of Austin FC. The U.S. club sees Hamas as a franchise signing both on the sporting and the media fronts. The talk are reportedly progressing well between the U.S. club and the player, along with his representatives. MLS emerged as an attractive destination for the 10, offering continuity, a starring role, and ideal environment to relaunch the final stretch of his career. Okay, so this is BS. I don't think he's going to Austin FC because, and we'll talk about this later, Austin FC just used their final DP spot on Facundo Torres, the former Orlando City SC player. So they have all three DP spots filled now. They have Brandon Vasquez, they have Ozuni, and now they have uh, Facundo Torres because he's going to cost 9.5 million euros. We'll talk about that later. So they're out. They can't sign him unless James Rodríguez is willing to take a discount, which I don't think he's going to be willing to do, but I could be wrong. And I saw it in the chat. My preference, if I'm James Rodríguez, or I think a spot for him to land would be Orlando City SC. Now, Luis Muriel, I think, is a Colombian too, if I'm not mistaken. So his countryman, it's his teammate, right? His country national team teammate. If I'm not mistaken, I think Luis Muriel is Colombian, has just left, right? So Orlando City have a DP spot open. And I think that he'd be a good fit in Orlando. I think that with the brand, and I think Orlando City needs something like this, right? Orlando City haven't had a big name signed for them since Nani, and that was in 2019, I think. Nani was in 2019. But to be honest with you, if we're being completely honest, Nani is a good player, and he had a great career with Portugal, and he had a great career in for Manchester United. But the problem with Nani is that he plays for Portugal. He has no South American draw whatsoever. I wouldn't even say he's a big name. I do think he was a good player. James Rodríguez is a bigger deal for the market of Orlando City SC. Now, he's not going to be a Kaká, who was the first DP signing in the club history. And obviously, they had signed him because there's a huge Brazilian population in Orlando. He's not going to be at the heights of Kaká, obviously. He's going to be, but he is going to be bigger than Nani. So I think he's going to be somewhere in between if Orlando City would sign him. I do think this would get some people excited. I do think people would be interested to follow Orlando City a little closer. And I'm not talking about the diehard fans. I'm talking about the casual soccer fans who live in Orlando. I do think it would be cool to have a James Rodríguez in your backyard. I do think people would be engaged and want to see him play. So I think James Rodríguez's best fit and place to go to is Orlando City. I think that's the best place for him to go to. So I think he's going to go to Orlando City. That's what my prediction would be if he comes to Major League Soccer. If he comes to Major League Soccer, where do you guys think he's going to go? I did see someone, Miguel, say that he thinks that he's going to go to Orlando. Where would you guys like to see James Rodríguez go to if he does come to Major League Soccer? I mean, there's plenty of places he could go, right? But I think we're talking the best fits. And if you guys are just joining us, make sure you guys give us a like down below. We have 40 of you in the chat right now. We only have 14 likes. Make sure you guys give us a like down below. It helps us out. We're trying to hit 100 likes on this stream. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We got a lot of MLS content on the horizon. Next month, the season starts. A lot of stuff to prepare for. A lot of stuff you guys aren't going to want to miss. So make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell notification so you don't miss any of that content. Cringe says Muriel was decent for Orlando. I'm surprised he left. I think they wanted to leave him because he was benched and he was costing too much. And he was a little disappointing for what they were paying in his production. I'm not crazy about James coming to MLS. He's a little old and performed terribly at Lyon. whoever it is needs to incorporate yellow into their kit. We've seen him become Superman when he's wearing yellow, right? That is true. That is true. Hot miss on a Tam that cares with the front of three of Torres, Vasquez, and Ozuni would feed families. I just don't think he's going to take I don't think he's going to do that. Would Who do you think the Galaxy should go for after the Pooj injury? I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to go for anyone until the summer. I think they might wait and see what happens. I think they might wait and see what happens in the summertime and see who's available. What places in the United States has the biggest Colombian population? I would say maybe Miami or New York City. Probably. I would say those are probably the two markets with the biggest Colombian population. I could be wrong, though. So that's the James Rodríguez news. I'm curious what you guys think. Would you want him? Would you not want him? Where should he go? I would be very hesitant to give him a DP deal, but some teams might want him and think he will be motivated because he's going to be playing in the 2026 World Cup for Colombia. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay. So next thing, and it transitions from Austin FC of why they're not interested in James Rodríguez. Palmeiras have received an offer from Austin FC from MLS for Facundo Torres. The offer is around $9.5 million, and I've confirmed with Territorial MLS, and it can reach up to $10 million bonuses. The information was first reported by the New York Times. So it looks like Facundo Torres is going to return to MLS. Now, I think this is kind of a big deal, and I think I might want to do a video on this, in a broader video of this, to talk about a young player like Facundo Torres, because he left Orlando City in 2024 or 2025, actually. God, it feels like he's been gone longer than that. So this is his first year gone. They did replace him with Pulisic. Orlando City did, and I thought he was just as good, if not better. But there has been a theme recently where MLS players, a couple young guys, have left the league, went to a different league, and struggled. And we're not even talking about a top European league. We're not talking about the top 5 leagues. We're talking about top league in South America, top league in North America. These players are leaving, and they are struggling, and they're having to come back. We saw it with Matty Bogusz after his bad season with Cruz Azul, and now we are seeing it with Facundo Torres with Palmeiras, and he is coming back to Major League Soccer after just 1 year of being away. I think it's a bad sign for Major League Soccer because you don't want to have as many failures. Obviously, guys, there's failures all over the world. Players go to different leagues. They don't do as well. There's a wrong fit, wrong manager, wrong scheme, or tactics, whatever the case may be. But these are guys who were really good Major League Soccer, and they're struggling to even be good or decent or average in their new leagues. That is not good, in my opinion. So Facundo Torres, 25 years old, will be 26 in April. Like I said, went to Palmeiras, played 43 matches, 8 goals at his time at Palmeiras. He has been a regular for the Uruguayan national team. My friend Filippo Silva, last I talked to him about Facundo Torres, because he's a huge Palmeiras fan, I think he said he was struggling. He was not doing very well. Maybe he was terrible. I can't remember specifically, but just disappointing, I think is what he said. And he would know, he would know Facundo Torres very well because he played for his Orlando City, which is where he lives. So he left the team he lives closest to play for the team he supports, and he was not impressed with him. And they paid $14 million for Facundo Torres, and they're ready to get rid of him after just 1 season, which is not a good thing, I think. So that's a little bit of a shame. It almost feels like once he got out of his comfort zone, he didn't grow and he didn't become a better player. He was too comfortable with Orlando City SC. So that's a little disappointing. I don't want to see this be a trend because we want to get to a point where young, promising players will be able to move to a different league, demand a high price in Major League Soccer, so that way other players want to come here to develop and then move to a different league. Now, we obviously have seen some good players that have moved that played in MLS, like Thiago Almada, Diego Gomez, Tati Castellanos. There's obviously been some guys who have been good and then moved to another league and has done well. Cucho Hernandez. I'm just saying that it looks bad when these guys move to a smaller league than a top 5 and they don't look good. It just doesn't help out. It makes younger players a little bit more timid or reserved about coming to Major League Soccer because it could hurt their career. Matty Bogusz is probably not going to go to MLS. Europe. Facundo Torres is probably not going to go to Europe after he couldn't even make it in Brazil. Brazil's a great league, by the way, no disrespect, but it's going to hurt his chances of making it to a going to Europe, which I'm sure it's every soccer player's dream, right? Every player dreams of playing in Europe. Hell, if I was a soccer player, I would dream of playing in Europe just to see if I could. I'm not that skilled though. I'm not that good. That's why I'm here talking about instead of playing. Mr. says sometimes just moving to a different country throws some players off. Yeah, and I agree. And look, there's so many variables, right? There's the fit of the system, getting along with your teammates, your dressing mates, whatever your friends, the new teammates, the dressing room. There is, like you said, the new country, acclimating to a different environment. There's just so many factors that maybe just didn't work out for him, and that's why it's not a huge concern right now. Like I wouldn't hit the red button, or, hit the panic button. But I do think it's something to keep an eye on because these are two young players that were very good in Major League Soccer that couldn't make it in leagues that weren't considered top five in the world. Diego Gomez is crushing it in the EPL. Yeah, Diego Gomez was just an absolute steal that Tata Martino was able to find. What a great signing that turned out to be. So, Matty Bogusz back to MLS, Facundo Torres back to MLS, and he's going to be a DP, which, I'll be curious to see what he can do at Austin FC, because their DPs, they had the three worst DPs, I think, in the league last year. Well, maybe not the three worst, but they were in contention at the three worst in Major League Soccer. Yes, the Quakes did get Timo Werner. We'll see what he can do. I'll be curious to see how well he plays. And you hope that they sign James Rodríguez. That would be interesting. Will, can you make a video on this very topic, players who left and performed, and then the opposite? Yeah, that is a good idea. I might try to do something like that next week. Cringe. MLS is obviously signing a lot more young players than they ever have. So it is interesting to see how many of them have been good and how many of them have been bad. And it's like I said, not every player is going to leave the league. It doesn't matter which league they play in the world. No one's going to have 100% or bat 1,000, right? They're not going to hit on every single player that leaves, and they're all going to be good in their next league. There's so many variables. There's so many things that can happen. It's never going to be 100%. So we'll see. But yes, that's a good video. I do plan to do something like that. Okay. I want to talk about this too, because this has been a crazy situation with Toronto FC and Josh Sargent. I was talking to my good friend Derek Ritchie the other night. I think it was Tuesday night. We talked for an hour about this because it was so crazy. And I'm even trying to get someone from Norwich to come on for an episode and talk about this whole drama with Josh Sargent. We talked the other day about, is Josh Sargent worth $18 million? Should Toronto FC sign him? Could they sign someone better for his value? But it really doesn't matter right now because it doesn't even seem like the deal will happen unless it just seems like it's a complete and utter a shit show, to be honest with you. But Norwich City's boss, Felipe Clement, has confirmed Josh Sargent is currently training with the club's youngsters after refusing to play against Walsall in the FA Cup last weekend. He will not be involved against Wrexham tomorrow. So I don't want to go into all the details because I don't know how much has actually been reported. So I'm going to kind of give a summarized version of what I heard. I mean, I don't know if this is completely reported, but we know that he didn't play in the game, right? We know he didn't play in the game against Walsall, right? And that pissed the manager off. I don't want to say who it was, but I think he was advised to not play in that game because the move, like to preserve himself, and they didn't want him to play in that game and get injured and potentially throw off the transfer to Toronto FC. So that just caused a lot of drama between Norwich and Josh Sargent. And they refused. After that happened, the manager kind of went rogue and said, we're not going to sell him. We're not going to sell him. And I think the board kind of just conceded and said, okay, let's, all right. And it's just caused a lot of drama between him and the club. And this is another thing. Sargent, whose family just welcomed their third child, is pushing for the move specifically to Toronto, which he has made clear to Norwich, as he and his family want to return to North America for the first time since he left at 18 years old to start his professional career in Europe. And Josh Sargent was 18 years old, I think, in 2000. So he hasn't been here since 2018. Hard to believe that was 8 years ago. Sargent hoped the club would be more collaborative in this process, sources said. So this was reported today at 1:05, so almost four or a little over 4 hours ago. But Josh Sargent really wants this move because Toronto FC is going to make him a top five highest paid player in MLS. Now, I've heard, I'm not reporting this. This is just kind of like what I've been told, right? Hearsay that he was going to get paid something like $8 to $10 million a year at Toronto FC if he comes here. And that's way more money than he's making at Norwich. That's way more money. What was the team that offered? Was it Wolfsburg that offered Norwich like $24 million for him, which is a lot of money. And Norwich really probably should have taken that in hindsight, but he didn't want to make the move and he wouldn't agree to personal terms. But $8 to $10 million is a lot of money for someone like Josh Sargent on an annual basis, right? That's pretty good money. What I heard, what I heard, he was texted the manager about 2 hours before kickoff. Don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. That sounds something similar. Like it was not really done in the most respectable manner, right? Respectful manner. Like he kind of didn't do it the way you should do it if you're going to do that, right? So that caused a lot of issues and a lot of drama. And I really, like I said, I want to have someone on from Norwich. I think maybe I don't think this is the guy I messaged. I messaged someone who has a Norwich YouTube channel, and I want to talk to them about this whole incident and see what they think and kind of pick their brain about it and post something about this maybe next week. I'll let you guys know if they end up reaching back out to me. But he wants this move, $18 million. I think it's going to inevitably happen. It's just kind of something that could have happened already. And with all this stuff that's happened with him refusing to play in the game, Felipe Clement getting upset with the way it was handled, it just has caused a huge stir and it's made things way more complicated than they needed to be. I still inevitably think he's going to play for Toronto FC because they really, really want him and he really wants to move. I don't think Norwich is going to keep him if he doesn't want to be there. And if he's already sat out a game before things got really bad, I just think it's best to move off from the player rather than keep someone who's disgruntled and could be bad for the locker room. Now, I know Norwich, I don't remember exactly what their standings were in the championship, and I know that they were close to the relegation zone. Of course, we don't know anything about that in Major League Soccer, right? No, there's no consequences for being bad in Major League Soccer, but we're not going to go off on a tangent about that. But yeah, so Norwich is currently in the relegation zone. They're 1 point out of not being relegated. Portsmouth is ahead of them. So they're probably going to get relegated, most likely. They're fighting for it. And Josh Sargent's one of their best players, if not their best player. So I understand why they don't want to necessarily get rid of him, but he really wants to come back to North America. He really wants to come play in Major League Soccer. He really wants to be a top five highest paid player in MLS. So, I mean, I don't really blame the kid. I don't blame him, honestly. Do you guys think the move's going to go through? Do you think that he will end up playing for Toronto FC in 2026? Do you think he'll make that move? I'll say this, though. Even if he does make this move, he's not going to be on the 2026 World Cup roster. It's not going to happen. He gets 20 goals in MLS on a good team. At Toronto, he gets 10 goals. Well, if he only scores 10 goals at Toronto FC and he's making $10 million and they paid $18 million for him, Toronto FC is getting absolutely fleeced in that deal if that's the case. They are getting screwed royally if that happens. Good move for Sargent, bad move for Toronto. I think he makes Toronto better. He doesn't make them good. I just don't like this American DP initiative that Toronto FC is doing. They got Jordi Mihalovic, who I don't think is worth a DP. Josh Sargent might be worth a DP. He's just not worth $18 million. Really don't know what Toronto FC is doing. It still feels like they have some poor leadership. I think he'll be good, but I think if you're paying $18 million, I just don't believe in paying $18 million for championship strikers, especially like, we talk about Emmanuel Latte-Lot for Atlanta United. He was just such a bad signing. I am very anti-spending $18+ million on a striker from a second division league, no matter how good it is. I don't believe that that's the right move. And I think that this could fail. I mean, $18 million, you're expecting this guy to be very, very good. If I was Norwich, I'd take the money. I agree. His stock's only going to get worse, I think, from here. Mihalovic has changed the game for them. he is a good player, but I think Toronto FC, I hold them in such high regards. I think they're a top club when they're good. They've just been down for so many years. I think they could do better than Mihalovic. Mihalovic is a guy who is a DP for Colorado, for Montreal. Players like that, or teams like that. Toronto FC have bigger aspirations, bigger goals. I mean, would Mihalovic be a disappointment if he was a DP for the LA Galaxy, for Inter Miami? Yeah, of course he would be. That's how I feel about Toronto FC. Toronto FC, I mean, this is the team that had Sebastian Jovinko, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, as Alejandro Pozuelo. Like, this team was really, really good a couple years ago. Sargent is one of the best championship strikers in the past 3 seasons, and Bundesliga teams wanted him last window, but his wife rejected it. Sargent is very good. I think he is very good. I'm not saying he's not very good. I'm just saying MLS is different in the fact that he's a DP. They're spending a lot of money on him. There's a lot of investment with him. Teams in Europe can kind of move off guys freely if they're bad. Major League Soccer, it's a lot harder. $18 million, $10 million a year salary. He's going to be expected to be a top 5 player in the league with that type of payment. I don't know if he is a top 5 player in the league. I don't know if he is a top 5 player in the league. I mean, he's good, but he's going to have almost unrealistic expectations with that type of thing, with that type of payment. But I'll be excited to see how he does. I mean, I don't dislike Josh Sargent. I actually like him quite a bit. I just don't know if he's that guy. But I know Toronto FC really want him. We'll see what happens. This won't be the last transfer video. I'm assuming more things will happen in the near future with a couple other MLS teams. But I just wanted to get on here. I don't know. Is there anything else that I forgot to cover? I think we've pretty much covered everything. One more thing I will touch on before I do leave, just because I did find this interesting, was Chucky Lozano. This is the last thing I'm going to say. Chucky Lozano has all the leverage with San Diego FC. They want to move off of him, but he doesn't have to leave because he's got 3 years left on his deal and he's making $8.5 million a year. So essentially, they're going to have to buy him out because he doesn't have to go anywhere he doesn't want to go. I mean, they can loan him out, but they'll have to pay some of his salary. He'll be a DP, take up a DP spot, even though he's not playing for the team. But he's made it clear. He has made it clear that he does not want to go. Fabrizio Romano said Chucky Lozano doesn't plan or want to leave San Diego in this window, and his intentions are to stay at the club. So he's essentially saying, hey, I have 3 years left of my deal. I'm not taking a pay cut to go back to Liga MX. You can buy me out. You can pay $24 million for me to not play at your club, but I'm not leaving for a discount. I'm not going back home. That's not happening. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with San Diego FC, because they're essentially going to have a DP spot waste on the guy that they don't want or who's not going to be playing for him. They're going to have him on the bench, not playing for the team, or they're going to have to loan him out and him still take up a designated player spot because nobody in Liga MX is going to pay his $8.5 million salary. He'd be the highest paid player in Liga MX. Chucky Lozano would be if he was making $8.5 million. He'd be the highest paid player in Liga MX, from my understanding. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, who feeds Sargent? Osario, Jordy? Just feels like they would need better pieces around him, and they are already splashing too much money on him. I think they have 2 DP spots open, 1 left after Josh Sargent. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll find out some more stuff. We will see. Now, it's pretty sad. Some teams have done absolutely nothing in this transfer window. Like, some teams need to wake the hell up. Like, they're not. It's just pathetic. And there's this is the thing that sucks about it, is there's no consequences for some of these teams that are doing absolutely nothing. Doing absolutely nothing. And they're going to continue to be bad next year, and there's no consequences. So that sucks. But guys, I appreciate you for joining me on this emergency episode of some MLS news. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys smash the like button if you're still here. Make sure you guys smash the like button down below if you haven't already. Let's get to the 100 likes. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Hope you guys have a great weekend. New video will be out on Sunday. Until then, I'll see you all soon.